Hey guys, I hope your day is going well, and today I'll be doing the much requested video of the Sherpa YoYo unboxing and review. So I've got a lot to go through, and let's get into the video. As usual with any of my reviews, I'm going to put the stats of this YoYo on the screen right here. So this YoYo goes for $55 on YoYo Expert, links down below, and a lot of people have been asking me if this YoYo is even worth it for the money, so I'll be addressing that in the video, so stay tuned for that. Another thing that you should know about this YoYo is it's actually kind of the big brother, in a sense, of the Moonshine. And if you don't know what the Moonshine is, it's another metal responsive or unresponsive YoYo that Basecamp made. It was very good, but they wanted to make something a little bit more wide, so that you can perform even more tricks on such a yo-yo like this. So in a sense, the Sherpa is the big brother of the Moonshine. And I actually never got a Moonshine. I did try it out at the World Yo-Yo Contest, and I thought it was pretty good, but I like the Sherpa a lot better because I feel like I can hit a lot more tricks on it. Alright, so first, let's go and talk about the unboxing experience. Okay, so first, the Sherpa comes in this small cardboard box. It's really pretty bland. On most of the sides, there's nothing. And on the front side, it says Sherpa with a little bit of what looks like luggage. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I think it is luggage. And then looking on the bottom, we just have some copyright stuff and the colors. So yeah, pretty basic box in general. Opening up the box, the first thing you're greeted by is the yo-yo itself. And then the other thing in the box is simply this plastic bag that has your unresponsive bearing and longer axle. And I'll talk more about that later in the video. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the unboxing experience. Pretty normal. Looking at the outside of the yo-yo, we have many things going on. On one side, it says Basecamp, and then it just says Sherpa below. I really like this design of it, just how it's pretty simple, but it kind of like curves around the finger spin area. And then on the opposite side, a lot of stuff is going on. You got these kind of wavy lines that kind of represent the mountains. And then on one little part, it says very small Kilimanjaro, which is Mount Kilimanjaro. And then there's these little numbers, which I assume are the heights of the mountains. But yeah, just a really neat design. I like how on one side it's pretty plain and basic, but on the other side it's got a lot of stuff going on, which is great. On the inside of the yo-yo itself, there really isn't any engravings whatsoever. One thing I did notice looking on the outside is how thin this yo-yo actually is. It's a very thin yo-yo in general, and it has some pretty high walls, which I'll go over more later in the video. Screwing apart this yo-yo, we have two different options. Obviously, there's standard Yo-Yo Factory response pads, but you can either have a long axle with an unresponsive bearing for obviously unresponsive play, as well as a short axle with a responsive bearing, so that you can have it either way that you want. But other than that, there's not really much more to the yo-yo. Now that we've gone over the unboxing experience, let's talk about what makes this yo-yo unique and stand apart from others. The first thing I noticed when picking up this yo-yo was how strange it felt. So this yo-yo itself is actually hollow. However, surprisingly, it actually has a pretty normal weight, which is kind of weird. And it just feels weird in the hand, but kind of good. Another thing I immediately noticed was the finger spin area. I really liked how it felt. Immediately knew that this would be great for finger spins. The last thing I really noticed was how smooth and sleek this yo-yo felt and looked. It looks really, really nice, I have to say. It's got this matte finish. It looks very smooth and nice. It feels great on the hand. With the smooth matte finish on this yo-yo, it has a very comfortable hold in the hand and feels great. And overall, at least the color I got, which is blue, looks fantastic, and I am so happy with it. So yeah, basically that's what makes this yo-yo kind of different, and I'll talk about how it feels later on in the video, but it's hollow and it has these crazy finger spin areas. Okay, so now let's talk about how this yo-yo feels on the string when you're playing with it. The first thing I noticed while playing with this yo-yo, right when I picked it up, was how weird it felt, but kind of in a good way. It's pretty thin, but I was still able to land almost all my tricks on it, which I was really pleased about. The hollow design feels very strange while you're playing with it, but the yo-yo had a really weird feel to it. One thing I immediately noticed is that since it's hollow, the weight distribution doesn't really even exist. It's not really concentrated, and I noticed that did make the yo-yo a little bit stable, but obviously there's no way you can get around that. I mean, it's a hollow yo-yo. But because it's hollow, it doesn't really have as much stability as other Yo-Yo Factory yo-yos, which is fine, but it's just something to note. During fast play and horizontal especially, I found it going way off axis when I didn't want it to do so, and it was a little bit strange at first. Another thing that contributes to the fact that this yo-yo can tilt pretty easily is that since the walls are so high, the string is constantly hitting either side of the yo-yo, which decreases both the spin time and the tilt of the yo-yo. But I've been criticizing this yo-yo way too much. This yo-yo is insanely fun. It's so cool to play around with. It feels very different on the string, and it's such a different experience from any of the other yo-yos I've ever played with in my life that I really enjoy playing with it, and I've been playing with it almost every day since I got it. The finger spins as well are also amazing. Once you get your finger locked into that little groove, it just feels fantastic. I'd really relate it to the Skyba's finger spin ring, but I'd say it's not as deep. It's a little bit more on the surface. But one thing I did notice about it is the finger spins can be hard to get into. So with a lot of yo-yos, there are kind of walls that guide your finger into the finger spin area, but it's almost completely flat on the cup. So it can be hard to get into finger spins. Sometimes it just slides right off. But like I said before, once you are in a finger spin, it is amazing. It's one of the best yo-yos I've ever felt to do finger spins with. Slack tricks with this yo-yo are pretty good. Since the yo-yo itself is pretty thin, it can be a little bit difficult, but I was able to hit almost all my slack tricks without effort. Fast tricks, like I said before, do make the yo-yo go off axis, which can be a bit annoying, as well as horizontal tricks. I was still able to pull off some of my horizontal tricks, but it was a lot more difficult. Now, one thing I have to say is I've been playing with this yo-yo completely unresponsive. I've never done the responsive bearing on it, and I don't really know what it's like. I don't really understand why anyone would want a responsive metal yo-yo, maybe just something to play around with or tinker with, but I just personally found myself never going to the responsive bearing, so I've been playing with this yo-yo completely responsive. Maybe there's another use for having it responsive, but I just want to let you guys know I've never done responsive with this yo-yo, and I really prefer it to be unresponsive. One thing I really like about this yo-yo is how it sounds on the string, which is kind of weird, I know, but just bear with me. When you're playing with this yo-yo on the string, it's got this really cool metallic sound with it. It's pretty quiet, but it's this really nice hum because of the fact that the yo-yo is hollow. And I just really like that. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but I really like the sound of this yo-yo. Similar to what I said before, the spin time of this yo-yo is pretty good, but because of its O shape and high walls, it can slow down after some long tricks. And if there is one thing I could change about this yo-yo to make it have a longer spin time, would be lowering the walls and increasing the gap just a little bit. And I know that it would kind of take away the fact that this yo-yo is kind of like a fun yo-yo, but if it had just a bit lower walls and a bit wider gap, then I think this would be flawless. Talking about grinds, this yo-yo is very, very good. The matte finish on it makes it extremely good for finger grinds, palm grinds, and like I said before, finger spins are amazing. You can't really do thumb grinds with this yo-yo because there's no spot to put your thumb, and talon grinds are kind of difficult. They can definitely be done, but it's sometimes hard to lock your finger into the groove. But overall, the grinds of this yo-yo are amazing and the finish feels awesome. Now, here's my biggest concern with this yo-yo. The fact that it's hollow can be really cool and fun to play around with, but since it's hollow, it's not very durable. So I know that the yo-yo itself is metal. I'm really worried for anyone that has this yo-yo that if they hit it on the ground too hard, it could crack and then you don't have a yo-yo. So I know this can't really be fixed, and it is pretty durable because it's a metal yo-yo. But since it's hollow, I feel like there's a lot of risk for the yo-yo being destroyed, which is kind of scary to think about. Now I bet a lot of you are wondering, why should anyone buy this yo-yo if you've already said all these negative things about it? Well, here's why I bought the yo-yo and why I think you should. So this yo-yo is a fun yo-yo. It's not a competition yo-yo by any means, but my gosh, it is really fun to play around with. Just doing any trick feels different than any other yo-yo, and I've actually made up a lot of new tricks with this yo-yo because of how different it felt. It kind of puts some variety into the mix. It's really interesting and really fun to play around with. So when we're talking about value for price, I'd say $55 is pretty good, maybe a little bit lower, but I mean, keep in mind, this is a really high quality yo-yo and it's really good. So I'd say to the question, is this yo-yo even worth it? Yes, it definitely is. This yo-yo is so much fun to play around with, but keep in mind what you're looking for. If you're looking for a competition yo-yo, look somewhere else. This is for just having fun and playing around with new tricks and other things. So yeah, hopefully that answers any of the questions you guys have about if this yo-yo is worth it or like what the purpose of it is. But yeah, it's a fun yo-yo to play around with. Just keep in mind when you're thinking about buying this, but I would highly recommend this yo-yo. Alright, in conclusion, the Sherpa is a really great yo-yo for having fun. It is so cool to play with a hollow yo-yo, and the finger spins are so much fun on this yo-yo, so I really like it. Despite the bad things I said about this yo-yo, I still overall love this yo-yo and will continue playing with it a lot. So really, the choice is up to you. If you want a fun yo-yo to play around with, the Sherpa is such a good candidate, and I'd highly recommend it. Well, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my unboxing and review of the Yo-Yo Factory / Base Camp Sherpa. If you guys have any questions about the yo-yo or anything else, be sure to leave a comment down below, or you could email me, and my email will be in the description. Also, I post weekly videos on Saturdays. If you guys are enjoying the content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. That is it for the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.